The rancher had lived on his land for many years. His ranch was far from the nearest town, surrounded by open desert and rugged hills. Every day, he rose early to tend his cattle, check fences, and make sure the water troughs were full. He lived a quiet life. Most people in the nearby town knew him as hardworking, reliable, and a little reserved. He liked it that way. Life on the ranch had taught him to be independent. He liked the silence of the desert, the sound of the wind, and the calm that came with the long, empty stretches of land. One evening, the sky began to darken, unusually fast. Clouds gathered over the horizon, turning the air heavy. The rancher had seen many storms in his life, but something about this one felt different. He was inside his small house, checking the barn before the rain came. Suddenly, he noticed a faint flicker of light far off near the edge of his property. It was unusual. No one should be out there, not in this kind of weather. Curiosity and concern pushed him to grab his coat and walk toward the light. As he got closer, he saw 3 young girls huddled together near a small, struggling fire. They looked scared and tired. Their clothes were wet, and their hair stuck to their faces from the rain. The rancher immediately recognized that they needed help. He called out softly, introducing himself, and the girls looked up, startled. Their eyes were wide, filled with fear, but also a hint of relief. At first, the rancher hesitated. He was used to dealing with animals, not people in such desperate situations. But something inside him told him to act. He motioned for them to follow him to the barn. The girls moved cautiously at first, but eventually obeyed. The barn smelled of hay and horses. It was warm, dry, and safe. He offered them blankets and dried clothes he kept for emergencies. The girls accepted silently, wrapping themselves carefully, shivering as the warmth reached them. Once they were settled, the rancher prepared a simple meal. He had some bread, cheese, and fruit, which he gave to the girls. They ate slowly, still uncertain about the man who had brought them here. He watched them closely, making sure they were comfortable and safe. Over time, the tension in the room began to ease. The girls, though still quiet, began to talk softly among themselves. As the night went on, the storm outside grew stronger. Rain poured down in sheets, lightning flashed across the dark sky, and the wind howled through the desert. Inside the barn, there was warmth, light, and a sense of safety. The rancher and the girls sat near the fire. Slowly, the rancher asked them about themselves. At first, the girls were hesitant. They were not used to strangers showing kindness. But the rancher spoke gently, without rushing them. He did not ask questions that might scare them. He simply asked about their day, their lives, and what brought them to this part of the desert. The girls began to open up. They told him about their family, their home, how they had wandered too far while exploring the land near where they lived. They spoke of their worries and their fears, and the rancher listened quietly, understanding more than he let on. He admired their courage. Even in such a difficult situation, they had remained calm and supportive of each other. The older sister took care of the younger ones. Keeping them close and offering comforting words, the rancher shared some of his life too. He told them about the ranch, the animals, and what it was like to live far from everyone else. He spoke about the long days of work, the quiet nights, and the simple joys of life under the open sky. The girls listened with fascination. They had never been so far from home or seen life on a ranch in such detail. They asked questions, sometimes laughing quietly at the funny things he said about the animals or the chores he did every day. By now, the storm had reached its peak. Rain pounded against the barn's roof, and thunder rolled in the distance. Yet inside, there was a peaceful warmth. The rancher noticed that he felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt needed, and at the same time, he felt a deep sense of connection. These girls, strangers who had appeared unexpectedly, were teaching him something about care and kindness. He realized that life on the ranch, though calm and quiet, had left him missing human connection. The girls were beginning to trust him too. They smiled softly when he spoke to them and even laughed at his jokes. One of the younger sisters asked if they could help with feeding the chickens tomorrow. The rancher smiled. He had expected them to be too scared or too tired, but instead they were curious and eager to learn. The warmth of the fire and the safety of the barn seemed to allow them to relax for the first time in hours. Hours passed quickly. The storm outside began to subside, but the rancher knew that sleep would come slowly for all of them. He offered blankets and made sure the girls were comfortable before he took a small corner himself to rest. As he lay down, he thought about how unexpected this night had been. He had started the evening expecting a quiet, routine night on his ranch, yet now he was sharing it with 3 brave young sisters. He felt a quiet joy that he could not put into words. During the night, the rancher woke a few times to check on the girls. They were sleeping soundly now, huddled together for warmth. He watched them and thought about how quickly life could change. One moment, he was alone with his animals and his chores. The next, he was part of a small, fragile story unfolding in his barn. The night felt magical, filled with the kind of quiet lessons that life sometimes gave without warning. By the time dawn approached, storm had passed completely. Sunlight began to filter into the barn, casting a warm glow over the hay and the girls. The rancher looked at them and realized that he could not just send them back into the world without making sure they were truly safe. He would need to find help, people who could guide them home. But at the same time, he did not want to rush the moment. There was something important about the connection they had formed during this stormy night. The girls slowly awoke, stretching and blinking in the morning light. They looked at the rancher with quiet gratitude. None of them spoke immediately, but the warmth in their eyes said everything. The rancher smiled back. He felt that something significant had begun tonight, something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. He did not yet know how the events of this night would change him, but he knew that he would never forget it as they prepared to leave. The rancher promised to help them find their way back to safety. The girls nodded, trusting him completely now. He could see that they had learned a small lesson about trust, just as he had learned one about kindness and the unexpected ways people could enter your life. The night had been more than just a storm. It had been a meeting of hearts, a quiet reminder of the good that existed in the world, even in unexpected places. Before they stepped out into the morning light, the rancher knelt down and said softly, "You are safe here as long as you need to be." The girl smiled. The bond between them, unspoken but clear. They had changed him without even knowing it, and in return he had given them warmth, safety, and understanding. This night, simple as it seemed, would mark the beginning of a story that none of them would ever forget. The morning after the storm, the rancher guided the 3 Apache sisters toward the edge of his property. The sun had risen high enough to warm the earth, casting a golden light over the ranch. The girls moved carefully, their wet clothes now replaced with dry ones the rancher had given them the night before. They looked around the open land with quiet wonder, noticing the fences, the cattle grazing, and the distant hills they had not seen before. The rancher felt a sense of pride as he watched them. This land had been his home for many years. Now it was also a place where these girls had found safety and warmth. He had thought carefully about what to do next. He could not simply let them wander back on their own, not after the dangerous storm and the long walk they had already taken. He decided to contact local authorities and the girls' family. He wanted to make sure they returned safely while keeping the trust they had built. He made a few phone calls, explaining the situation carefully, and soon someone was on their way to help. While waiting, the rancher suggested they explore the ranch. The girls' eyes lit up at the idea. They walked together across the fields, learning about the daily life of a rancher. The rancher showed them how he fed the chickens, repaired the fences, and tended to the cattle. He explained why he did things in certain ways and how the animals relied on him for care. The girls were fascinated, asking questions, and sometimes laughing at his stories about the animals. The youngest sister tried to mimic the way he fed the chickens, while the older sisters listened attentively to his explanations about the ranch. Throughout the morning, the rancher noticed how much he enjoyed their company. Their curiosity and eagerness reminded him of simpler joys he had forgotten. He realized that the quiet life he had once cherished could be even more fulfilling when shared with others. The girls, in turn, were learning new skills and gaining confidence. They were not only safe, but also excited by the experience. Their trust in the rancher grew with each passing hour. When the family arrived, they were relieved and thankful to see their daughters safe and unharmed. The rancher watched the reunion quietly, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He had helped them, yes, but the experience had given him more than he expected. It had brought warmth, joy, and a sense of connection to his life that had been missing for years. The girl's parents expressed gratitude, promising that the girls would remember the kindness he had shown forever, even after the sisters returned home. The bond between them and the rancher remained strong. They began visiting the ranch regularly, helping with chores, and learning about ranch life. The rancher found these visits rewarding. He taught them practical skills like feeding animals, mending fences, and understanding the land. In return, the girls shared stories of their lives, their dreams, and their culture. The rancher listened carefully, appreciating the lessons they taught him about resilience, courage, and the importance of family. Days turned into weeks, and the rancher noticed that his daily routine had changed. Life on the ranch was no longer just about work and solitude. It was now filled with laughter, conversation, and the joy of teaching and learning. The girls brought light into the rancher's life. He found himself looking forward to their visits, eager to hear about their experiences and share his own knowledge. The rancher realized that life's small moments, the quiet mornings, the shared tasks, and the simple conversations were now richer than ever before. One afternoon, the rancher took the girls to a nearby hill to watch the sunset. They sat together, silent at first, taking in the beauty of the wide-open sky. The girls were amazed by the colors, the vastness of the land, and the peacefulness of the moment. The rancher spoke softly, telling them how important it was to notice these simple pleasures in life. The girls listened, nodding, understanding the lesson in their own way. They were learning not only about ranch life, but also about finding peace and happiness in everyday moments. The rancher also noticed changes in himself. He had always been independent, sometimes even stubborn. But the presence of the sisters had taught him patience, empathy, and the joy of sharing. He found that he could open his heart without fear, and that helping others brought fulfillment beyond anything he had imagined. He reflected on the night of the storm and realized that the encounter had been a turning point in his life. The girls had not only needed him, they had changed him as well. The sisters also grew closer to the rancher. They trusted him completely and looked up to him as a mentor and friend. They were eager to learn not just about ranch life, but also about life in general. The rancher encouraged them to ask questions, try new things, and be confident in their abilities. He shared lessons from his own life, emphasizing hard work, honesty, and kindness. The girls listened carefully, absorbing the wisdom and incorporating it into their daily lives. One day, the rancher helped the sisters organize a small picnic on the ranch. They packed simple food, played games, and explored the land together. The day was filled with laughter, joy, and discovery. The rancher realized that these moments, simple as they were, created lasting memories. He felt grateful that life had given him the chance to connect with these three young girls in such a meaningful way. The sisters, in turn, felt safe, happy, and inspired. As time went on, the rancher and the sisters shared many more experiences. They worked together on ranch tasks, learned new skills, and enjoyed quiet evenings by the fire. The rancher found that he had grown more patient, understanding, and joyful. The girls learned confidence, resilience, and the value of kindness. Together, they created a bond that was both unspoken and unbreakable. Built on trust, care, and shared experiences, eventually, the sisters returned home more regularly, sometimes staying longer, sometimes leaving sooner, but always maintaining the connection. The rancher had discovered that life's richness came not only from solitude and hard work, but also from human connection, compassion, and trust. The girls had changed his life forever, teaching him that even small acts of kindness could transform hearts and create lasting bonds. In reflection, the rancher realized that the night of the storm had been the beginning of something remarkable. A chance encounter, born out of necessity and courage, led to a relationship that shaped his days, his heart, and his outlook on life. He felt gratitude for the girls, for their trust, and for the lessons they had taught him about patience, empathy, and the importance of opening oneself to others. Even years later, the rancher would remember that night vividly. He would remember the storm, the fear in the girls' eyes, and the warmth of the barn. He would remember the simple meal, the shared stories, and the quiet moments of understanding. Most of all, he would remember the bond formed that night, a bond that reminded him that life's most meaningful moments often come unexpectedly. Through the kindness and courage of others, the rancher knew that his life would never be the same. The presence of the three Apache sisters had brought joy, connection, and a renewed sense of purpose into his world. They had shown him that even in the quietest, most isolated places, human kindness could shine brightly. And he had shown them that trust, care, and compassion could make all the difference in the world. Together, they'd created memories and lessons that would last a lifetime. The rancher often thought about the night they first met, realizing how much it had shaped him. He felt a deep sense of contentment and pride in the life he now shared with these girls. He had discovered the joy of connection, the power of compassion, and the beauty of unexpected friendships. The storm had passed, but its impact remained forever, reminding him that even the most ordinary life could be touched by extraordinary moments. And so, the rancher continued his life on the ranch, tending to his land and his animals, but now with a heart fuller than ever. He welcomed each visit from the sisters, knowing that their presence brought more than just companionship, brought lessons, laughter, and a reminder that life's greatest gifts often come in the form of unexpected encounters and shared experiences. The sisters had changed his life forever, and in doing so, he had discovered the true meaning of care, connection, and family.